Good afternoon on what is a bright, clear but chilly day. It is Sunday the 6th of March. I am back in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and this pile of parcels to unbox. The next thing I'm going to look at is this box here. Sounds like it's got a dice in it, so let's find out what is in here. See if I can find a way in. Thinking we're going to have to cut my way in. I don't know. Let's see where I can get this to parcel tape to. Okay, there we go. It's coming away. Nope. Coming away now. Yeah, this is the bit where you see me fight with the packaging. Sorry about that. I will get in here, I will. Almost there. I've got a blunt. Flipping it open. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is. Okay, so. After all that, what I have got here is a copy of the Star Trek role-playing game, published by FASA, and this is the second edition. It's the second edition published by Games Workshop. This is the Games Workshop version, but originally published by FASA in 1982. Now this is the third Star Trek role-playing game which came out. Previously there was one from Heritage Games in the 70s, and this was followed by a Japanese one as well. But this is this is the one, when you say what was the first Star Trek role-playing game, everyone will think of this one from FASA. So, Star Trek role-playing game, Space the Final Frontier. These are the voyage of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. In Star Trek, the role-playing game, each player assumes the identity of a character in the Star Trek universe. While controlling the actions of the character, players lead them through one adventure after another, facing new challenges and unknown dangers. Each game is an ever-changing story as players solve near impossible puzzles, complete dangerous missions, and simply battle to survive. Okay, so what you get in here is tells you you've got the Starfleet Officer Manual. This covers the creation and training of your Starfleet officer and the direction of their adventure actions. For those new to role-playing, there is an introduction and glossary. Cadet Orientation Source Book. This logs the Star Trek universe. Illustrated sections cover governments, races, and fleet equipment and organisation. An event timeline glossary is provided for those new to Star Trek. Game Operations Manual. This information is designing and running games. Covers adventure design and presentation, evaluation of the character generation and actions on planetside or in space. Two percentile dice for use in place. So let's take a look. Okay, big open box, and what you've got inside is there, and you've got the dice there, and I'm just holding so I don't want to drop them. Now here we have two dice here. So this is you see that. So you've got two 20-sided dice with 0 to 9 twice on them. I think mine were red in my original box set, and they're really kind of cheap and cheerless, I would say. They're not cheap and cheerful by any means. They're not nice dice particularly, they're serviceable. And then we have beneath this the 3 books. So I'm going by the, let's go by the, it says basically Starfleet, let's go with the Starfleet Officer Manual. So there we go, so here we go. And we open up where there's the contents. There's the character sheet. Okay, and you can see stats across the top. Then you've got a track record of the essentially terms of service, links to terms of service the player character has served, the officer has served. So how many tours, how many cadet cruises he's been on, and how many years that would take, and then a list of all the skills underneath. We get introduction to the role-playing game. And role-playing the final frontier, and then we get on to finding characters. Skill rating, skill areas, that sort of thing, and it's all a bit, I would say it's not very excitingly presented. These days, you know, we have been spoiled by, I mean, all the Star Trek role-playing games that came after this were really not as were full colour, if not illustrations, photo stills taken from the series, which are always all in colour, but here it's black and white. So explanations of all the skills, and then we get on to creating a character. And what's okay? So we've got the stats bonuses here for the different races, because you can play humans, Andorrans, Caitians, Adoans, Tellarites, and Vulcans, and future supplements would expand upon that. So we had sort of like quite a mix of different characters aboard our Starfleet vessel when we played. So it's really kind of limiting the character types to the original series, and you really and then with the inclusion of the Adoans and the Caitians to the animated series, and this would really go up as it really wouldn't. I would go up basically as far as perhaps the start. Not even really the motion picture. It was originally just the original series. It really wouldn't be until you got to the movie source books, which would update everything for the setting. And then we come on to character creation. Now, character creation is interesting that it did something similar to Traveller, because you start off in Traveller, you're 18, and you go through multiple terms in one or more services, typically one during this period, until you get to something like the Mongoose version of Traveller, going through turn by turn, getting older and older, but more skilled. And then through random chance, you would either die, or you will be cashiered from the service, or you would retire. Now, in the Star Trek role-playing game, you said, what am I going to play? Oh, I'm going to play the first officer. Okay, which branch do you want to be from? So you would actually start up at the point of where you are 18, or of an age to go to Starfleet Academy, with some background skills. Go to Starfleet Academy, get a branch school, and then you might have also command school, that sort of thing as well, depending upon if you're the first officer. Yes, you get to command school, and then you have tours of duty, and you would work your way towards that point and then stop. You'll create a character up to the point where they were absolutely qualified to take that position. So it was kind of the character creation, so it's really quite focused, and it's not really many role-playing games that do that at all. So here we've got the curriculum for the different branches, so engineering, communications, helm, medical, navigation, science, and security. And in all cases, all the skills are percentages, you've got chances to improve your skills as you go along, and then take outside electives, and that's so on. So it's basically like going to university, but one dedicated to exploration and protecting the Federation. And then we've got the short form, so you can have massive tables there for creating character, and sort of like, you probably actually wouldn't necessarily use those tables. You'd work through the bit before, because it really wasn't. It was a lot easier to read. Tactical movement and combat. Okay, so this see if you wanted to essentially play your brawls or your encounter, with Klingons or with Gorns out on a little square grid. You could. I don't know. I mean, we never did. We never did that. It was always a case of we always went for theatre of mind. We were not never a miniatures orientated group, in fact. And we've got here we've got the weapons table. and basically firing arcs, that sort of thing. Yeah, we were never that tactical, at least when it came to personal combat. We've got sections on injury and recovery again, large sections of text. Before we go on to, let's have a look. We've got the glossary at the end. So yeah, that's just stuff the officer's manual. So that's creating characters. Then we have the Cadet Orientation Sourcebook. And this covers, we've got introduction and timeline. There's the sample character they created during, because there's a sample example of a character being created in this book, and here we give the character sheet for it. Why they didn't include the character sheet in the other one for it, I don't know. But we've got an introduction and timeline for the Star Trek universe, which goes all the way up to the point where Enterprise returns to its first 5-year mission under James T. Kirk. And then we've got Star Trek terminology. Now, this is designed for, for people who are new to Star Trek or know a bit about Star Trek but need to know more. I don't know how much this game was really just. You think, okay, it's one of the things where you have a role-playing game based upon a license, and I think the thing is, this is a game which, if you're a role player who is a Star Trek fan, then you'll pick up. How much whether or not you're a Star Trek fan and you want to pick up this game is another matter. I'm not sure some people did, and tried it and played it and enjoyed it. But so you've got that sort of like crossover of audiences. Anyone outside of that, I'm not entirely sure, would necessarily have picked this up. I've got things like an explanation of what does a stardate actually mean. Then we get on to starfaring races with short descriptions. I mean, any of these are worthy of 4 source books on their own, and more. And includes, we have Andorans, Cations, Adoans, Gorn, humans, Klingons, and over the page, Orions, Romulans, Tellarites, Vulcans, and Tholians. And again, this is all information. Really, there wouldn't have been a huge amount of information necessary to draw from back in '82. A lot of it will be heavily expanded in the years since. And then we've got government. So they've actually got a map of the Federation there, Federation space, which would be different maps would be done for Star Trek and then adapted for future role-playing games, but here it's plain and simple. Because at this point, the only treatment of Star Trek you had would have been the films. This would have been at the time of, this would have come out, this box set is, let's have a look, does we have a date on it? This is 83, it says, but the Star Trek role-playing game itself came out in 82, and trying to find reasonable copies of, the first edition of these games can be difficult. Later editions are a bit easier. And we've got a discussion of rank and responsibility. That's important in the game because rank and position, because it's essentially the player characters are in a semi-military organisation. You know, it has a rank and responsibilities, and it does play into that. So things like covering encounters in space, how do you handle that? And for the most part, we would have read that and we would have gone, okay, fine, let's get on with it. We've seen Star Trek, we know how it works. Then equipment, it's a long list of equipment, including sidearms, things like the phaser 1 and 2 pistols, and even all the way up to the phaser rifle, all interchangeable, and then Klingon weapons as well, and medical equipment, and the like. And then, just basically general equipment, including we've got disruptors and force field detentions, ship's logs, material fabrication units, photon torpedoes, and everything, and transporters. Again, all this is just stuff. Okay, both useful for the for the players and the GM, basically, as reference. And then we've got the crew of the Enterprise in here. So little illustrations and then full stats as well. Nothing in the way of biographies, but in some ways the players kind of know enough about the background, and then Then we have the story of Lee Sterling, and that sample character, some background for him. I kind of feel, I'm not entirely sure that's necessarily sort of like particularly useful in terms of gameplay, but it adds a little bit of colour in an otherwise, to be honest, colourless book in the sense of it's all black and white. It's it is a bit. It does feel very sort of like very, very technical in its presentation. And the one can compare to these books are what? Let's just check. The cadet orientation source book is 40 pages long. The Starfleet Officer's Manual is, they're both 40 pages long. This feels a bit longer, not by much, 48 pages long, but there's noticeable difference. And then we've got straight into designing adventures. Steps in adventure scenario design, adapting published adventures and the like. And one of the great things about Star Trek is it really had some good adventures published for it. A Doomsday, like, if you can ever get a chance to play a scenario called A Doomsday Like Any Other, it's a blast, it's great. But the Klingon adventures are good as well. And there was a great Klingon supplement, of course, written by John M. Ford. So we've got things in here like so we get into Strange New Worlds, and so we've got designing class M planets, creating aliens, new civilizations. So basically they have their own indexes, almost like the world classifications in Traveller. So yeah, I've got like a socio-political index, a planetary science index, a cultural attitude index, and so on. Then we've got the designing NPCs, so typical sort of like stats and so on for your average NPCs thrown in. And then judging character generation, bit of a cut off there, but hey. Judging ground action. So general advice for the game master, using skills and things, and judging secret roles and hidden successes, and judging tactical movement. It just sort of like, again, it looks all very dry and so on. It's just essentially this is just advice to having at those aspects of the rules, and then Starship combat, and using the Star Trek 3 Starship combat system. And one of the great things about that is that the player characters could actually take their roles aboard the spaceship, and actually would have roles aboard on those bridges and doing things and back and forth. And really, that's a model that's been used ever since for most Star Trek role-playing games. So what's not in here? What's not in here is an adventure. You're kind of lost there, and I think that's, and I don't think there ever was one even in the first edition, but that's a bit disappointing. But when it comes to Star Trek, there would have been a lot of inspiration around even then to track down. You're writing a science fiction adventure. I'm sure you could any GM worth her Starfleet Salt could have come up with something. So yes, that's the Star Trek role-playing game, published by FASA in 1982 originally. As I said, this is the 1983 Games Workshop version. Again, nice piece of history, nice interesting role-playing game. We've had a lot of fun back in the day and enjoyed that. Anyway, thanks for watching another unboxing of the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with, the remains of a box, or basic packaging, and a book or game which I will extract, unbox, and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so. All, of course, accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.